Hi, I've been waiting. I'm Stitchmouth, and I collect the stories people are too scared to tell. Tonight's theme, treehouses, places that are supposed to feel safe. But sometimes, the thing watching you climb the ladder isn't your friend. In our first story, two best friends keep a secret connection, a tin can and string stretched between their windows. It's a harmless ritual. Until one night, the voice on the other end isn't the one they were expecting. Stitch by stitch the dark comes near, so close your eyes and lend an ear. Rob and Kate had been best friends since first grade, the kind of friends who could spend all day together at school and still text each other memes from their bedrooms that night. They grew up next door to each other, rode bikes with the rest of the neighborhood kids in summer, dropped into Fortnite duos when the weather was bad. Kate had the better setup, a gaming PC in her treehouse. Her dad had wired power up there years ago, so she turned it into a second bedroom. From Rob's window, you couldn't see the treehouse. It was tucked just out of view, around the corner. But you could hear it, and that's why they strung a tin can phone between their rooms. It was mostly a joke. They still talked on Discord. But every night before bed, Kate would take her dog, Monster, out for one last potty time. And Rob would wait at his window, tin can to his ear, string pulled tight. They'd talk until Monster barked to go in, then say goodnight. It was their ritual. One October night, Rob lifted the can and whispered, "Kate, you out there?" The answer wasn't Kate. It was a voice so old it sounded like paper tearing. A woman's voice, low, dry, laughing.
"Not yet,"
she said.
"but soon. I'm going to get her."
Rob dropped the can so fast it bounced off the siding. He grabbed his phone, called Kate. She answered mid-laugh, thought it was one of his Halloween pranks, told him he should save it for the school costume party. Rob swore to her it wasn't a joke, begged her not to go back up to the treehouse. But the line went quiet. Then she hung up. A few minutes later, he heard Monster barking in the yard, then the faint creak of the treehouse ladder. And after that, nothing. No more barking. No sound from the tin can line. By morning, Kate was gone. Monster was found shivering on the porch, string from the tin can phone tangled around his collar. The cops searched the neighborhood, the woods, even the sewers. But Kate was never found. Rob never touched the tin can line again, but sometimes, late at night, he'll hear the string go tight, like someone's picked up on the other end. And a voice, just above a whisper, "Rob, you out there?" Kate's last trip outside with Monster didn't end the way it should have. That's the trouble with too many jokes. No one listens when it's real. Now, three friends spend their summer nights in a weathered old treehouse, playing an innocent game with something not so innocent watching. Liam, Noah, and Sam were inseparable. The rest of their fourth grade class knew them as the Jokers, always pulling stunts, making everyone laugh. Summer break meant more time in the neighborhood treehouse, a 5-minute walk from the swing set, just past the double willow trees. Their dads had built it years ago, back when they were in school together. The boys called it the command station. They'd spend hours up there, playing Yu-Gi-Oh cards, eating pizza, watching YouTube, and taking turns bringing snacks, usually chips. One lazy afternoon, they were running out of things to do. Then Sam found one of their dad's old camping flashlights in a dusty box under the window. They invented a new game on the spot, the flicker game. It was based on Morse code. One kid would go outside and flick a message into the treehouse window. The other two had to figure it out. Messages were always dumb. "We need more soda. You're smelly." Until one day, it was Liam's turn outside. The sun was sliding low, and the air under the willows had that cooler, heavier feel. From the treehouse window, you could just make out the narrow dirt path snaking toward the edge of the woods. The light flickered in short bursts. Noah squinted. "That says run," Sam laughed. "Good one, Liam." But the message kept flashing. "Run, run, run." "All right, we get it," Noah called through the glass. Still, the light didn't stop. That's when Liam's head popped up through the hatch. "Yo, flashlight's dead. We need batteries." Noah's voice went flat. "Then who's flickering right now?" They turned back toward the window. The beam was still coming from outside, beyond the willows, right where the tree line began. The path back there always looked darker than it should, branches crowding overhead, shadows pooling like black water. Whatever was out there was not a kid. The light flashed again, same word, same urgency. "What if it's just the Smith twins messing with us?" Sam asked. Noah shook his head. "They're way too chicken to go into the woods." The message changed. Now. So they did exactly what it said. They bolted from the treehouse, tearing past the swing set where the Smith twins were playing. "Stay away from the treehouse!" Noah shouted without stopping. The next day, they met at Sam's house to decide what to do. They sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, a half-empty bag of Doritos between them. "So, we're just gonna ditch the command station?" Noah asked. His voice was quiet. It felt wrong to even say it. Liam shook his head. "It's ours. Our dads built it. We can't just leave it." Sam hesitated. "But what if it wasn't human? You saw how fast it was flashing." They went back and forth for almost an hour. Every reason to stay had a reason not to. Finally, Noah sighed. "If we stop going, it wins, whatever it was." That settled it. They went back that afternoon. The treehouse looked exactly the same, still, silent, like nothing had ever happened. They didn't play the flicker game again, but sometimes, when the willows sway just right, a faint light dances across the window. 3 quick bursts, a pause, 3 more, spelling the same word over and over: run. The problem with games played in the dark is you never know who's watching from the shadows. Now, in our final story, a late-night meeting in a treehouse with the humming man. Sid wasn't much of an outdoors kid anymore. These days, she preferred staying in, building dream houses in The Sims, listening to synthwave playlists, and hanging with her friends on Discord. The treehouse in the backyard used to be her favorite place. She'd bring snacks up there, pretend it was her own little cabin in the woods. But now that she was older, it mostly just sat there, a quiet shape between the branches, half covered in moss. You could see it perfectly from Sid's bedroom window. It was a week into October when she started waking up at 3:30 in the morning. At first, she thought it was just random. She was half asleep, too tired to care. But every time she woke up, her room would be faintly glowing purple. She barely registered it, just rolled over and went back to sleep. But by the 4th night, she noticed where it was coming from. Out the window, the treehouse. It was glowing. Just softly at first, like someone lit a candle dipped in violet ink. And then came the sound, a low humming, not loud, but deep, weirdly melodic, like someone was singing, but in a language Sid didn't recognize. She pulled the covers over her head and didn't sleep again the rest of the night. Curious, terrified. She peeked out the window one last time and saw her grandma climbing down the ladder from the treehouse. Sid didn't say anything the next morning. She wasn't very close with her grandma and didn't feel comfortable bringing it up. Her grandma had just moved in a month earlier. She was very sick, so Sid's parents offered to let her stay with them. That whole day, the treehouse felt different. She kept catching herself staring at it through the window, waiting to see if it would glow again. She wanted to ask, she really did. But something about the way her grandma moved, or smiled, or looked at her for just a second too long, Sid couldn't do it. So she made a different plan. They had a doorbell cam they barely used, just sat unplugged in a drawer near the modem. She charged it all afternoon, waited until the house got quiet, then snuck outside. It was colder than she expected. The ladder felt damp, like the treehouse didn't want her there. Inside, everything looked normal, dusty, forgotten. The beanbag she used to read in, old paper stars hanging from thumbtacks in the ceiling, but the air smelled faintly like matches and something sweet, like burned flowers. She mounted the camera on the top shelf, angled it toward the center of the floor, plugged in the battery pack, double-checked the connection. She figured her grandma wasn't tech-savvy enough to notice it, and even if she did, she probably wouldn't know what it was. Back in bed, she opened the app and left her phone face up beside her pillow. The screen glowed faint blue. She waited. At 3:27 a.m., her phone buzzed. Motion detected. Sid held her breath, slid the blanket off just enough to see the screen. The glow was back, pouring through the cracks in the wood like smoke made of light. It filled the camera frame in waves, soft and somehow alive. For a second, it looked empty, just the same dusty walls and peeling stickers. Then something moved, a shape, tall and still, standing in the very center of the floor. It wasn't her grandma. It wasn't anyone she recognized. The figure had no face, no features, just a long black silhouette, so dark it looked cut out of the world behind it. Then the humming started, not through the speaker, not from the phone, from outside, rising up from the backyard like it had weight. Same melody as before, but now it filled the air like a fog. And there was something else woven into it. Another voice, maybe two, singing in that same language she couldn't place. She stared at the screen, couldn't look away. The figure wasn't moving, just standing there, still humming. Then, right as she reached to close the app, the figure turned, not its body, just its head, slowly, until it was facing the camera. Sid dropped the phone, yanked the blanket over her head, and stayed like that until sunrise. The next morning, she ran downstairs. Her mom was finishing her coffee. Sid held out her phone, hands shaking. There was someone in the treehouse last night. I saw it on the camera. She opened the app. The live feed was fine, but the footage from last night? Gone. No motion alert, no purple light, no figure. Just a frozen frame from hours before. Nothing else. Her mom raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you weren't dreaming? Sid didn't answer. She just stared at the screen. Because whatever she saw the night before, it was real. And it had turned to look at her. Sid felt a deep sense of anxiety for the rest of the day. She didn't really speak much either. Just kind of drifted. Let her parents think she was tired. Stayed off Discord. Kept her phone close. She tried watching YouTube. Even played a bit of Sims, but her chest wouldn't unclench. Every time she looked out the window, the treehouse was right there, like it was waiting for her to look first. By the time the sun went down, she had already decided she wasn't opening that app again. She didn't want to know. So when she heard the knock on her bedroom door, she assumed it was her mom, maybe coming to say goodnight. But it wasn't. It was her grandma. She smiled like she'd just come back from bingo, calm, almost gentle. Hey, sweetheart, do you have a minute? Sid nodded, unsure why. Her grandma stepped inside, smoothed the front of her sweater, and sat on the edge of the bed. There's someone I'd like you to meet, she said. He's been asking about you. Sid's mouth went dry. She opened it before she could stop herself. I saw someone in the treehouse, she said, and I heard the humming. I didn't mean to, but I did. Her grandma just smiled. She reached forward, tucked a piece of hair behind Sid's ear. That's who I want you to meet, sweetheart, she said. He's my friend. His name is the Humming Man. Sid nodded like she meant it, agreed to meet him at 3:30. But the second her grandma left the room, she pulled the blanket over her head and stayed there. She wasn't going. She had no intention of stepping foot in that treehouse again, not after what she'd seen, so she stayed in bed. Didn't touch her phone, didn't check the feed, didn't even look at the window, just curled up under the covers and waited for the night to pass. Meanwhile, the glow returned. Out in the treehouse, the purple light pulsed stronger than ever, almost electric. It lit the walls with movement. Sid's grandma knelt in the center of the circle, head bowed, hands out. The humming man stood across from her, still, waiting. He didn't speak, didn't hum. But something in the room felt expectant, like air holding its breath. Her grandma began whispering, "She's coming." She said yes. She's on her way. But no one came. Minutes passed. The light began to flicker. The warmth in the room drained away. "Please," she whispered. "She promised. I brought her. I did everything right." But the humming man didn't move. He only tilted his head just slightly, like something inside him was turning off. And then, he vanished. The light snapped out. The ritual circle cracked in half, and Sid's grandma collapsed onto the floor. The next morning, they found her there, cold, still, eyes eyes wide open like she'd seen something she couldn't explain. They said it was a heart attack, said it must have happened in her sleep. But Sid knew better. The humming man didn't get what he came for, and her grandma ran out of time. They say the humming man trades in life force, giving a little to one by taking it all from another. And once you've been offered to him, you're his forever. That's all for now. Snuff the candle, pull up the ladder. I'm Stitchmouth, and I'll be waiting.